There's a change under Finance G, numbers 2 and 3 need to be deleted. So
Okay.
the amended agenda would be without items 2 and 3 under Part B of G.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the approval of the July 2018 minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of July 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the July council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, authorization to pay bills. Mr. Morak.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move we pay bills in the amount of $998,609.95.
Second.
Moved and seconded to pay bills in the amount of $998,609.95. Are there any questions on the bills? If not, please cast your ballots. Motion carried. Being 7:03, I'm going to call the public hearing open. This is regarding rezoning a property at 801 North Shawano Street. The rezoning is owned by Darren Chainrock. This request is to rezone the property from the current NR to NR/B2 or Natural Resources Highway Commercial to allow for the construction of a Dollar General store on that property. Is there anybody here that wishes to be heard on the issue? Sir, please come forward.
Yes, my name is Todd Platt. Good evening, everybody. I'm from Appleton. I'm the developer of the proposed Dollar General. Do not have a presentation, but I'm here in tonight's meeting to answer any questions you may have.
When are you going to open?
We're very close to getting all the project approvals. We would anticipate breaking ground yet this fall and have a store ready to be open in June of next year.
Okay. Very good. Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Okay, if not, I will close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the council? If not, we will move right along to Board of Public Works. Mr. Barrington.
Thank you. Board of Public Works met Monday, August 6, 2018. Meeting called to order at 4:30. First item was wastewater treatment plant update. Mr. Gruhl briefly updated the committee on his monthly treatment plant report. The next, we discussed wastewater treatment plant digester improvement plan and to authorize the staff to proceed with bid advertisement for construction. Mr. Hurth informed the committee that originally staff planned on asking for approval to proceed with a bid advertisement for the project. However, after consulting with Finance Director Radke, staff decided to have the sewer rate study updated to ensure finances were in order to fund the project before proceeding with the bid. Mr. Gruhl provided some information on the proposed project and the benefits of the potential high-strength waste receiving station. No motion was made on this. The next item we discussed was GIS progress. Mr. Hurth demonstrated to the board some of the things that staff are using the online GIS system for. Recently, the department completed a sidewalk inspection with the system. The staff member recorded the GPS coordinates, sidewalk conditions, and took pictures with a basic smartphone. Mr. Hurth and Mr. Gruhl talked about future plans to continue collecting and entering data into the system. In the director's report, Mr. Hurth reported on other projects that are already in the project or beginning soon. Finance Director Radke is crunching numbers to determine the funding schedule for the next 11 street projects. On the years of service report, Ben Gruhl has completed 18 years with the city on July 3rd. Luke Hammons completed 3 years of service on July 28th. Other matters, Mr. Hurst stated that he is looking at the department's policy on sewer credits and may bring it to the board for renewal if changes are recommended. Board, the meeting was adjourned at 5:21. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Barrington. Next, we have Finance and Personnel, Mr. Morak.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Finance and Personnel Committee met on Wednesday, August 8th in the council chambers. City Clerk Jackie Byer reviewed the open meeting policy for posting agendas and notices. The city designated 3 physical places for posting meeting notices along with a website. A motion was made by Barrington and seconded by O'Connell to recommend to council the acceptance of the policy, carried 5-0, and we'll be voting on that later. The finance director's reports were reviewed. The city administrator's report was discussed. The July Finance and Personnel Committee will be held, the next Finance and Personnel Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, September 5th at 4:30 p.m. There was no public comment. Committee adjourned at 5:13 p.m. Next, I would move that we adopt the policy for public meetings.
Second.
I might comment that the 3 physical places for posting meeting notices will be the northeast entrance to the City Hall, the New London Public Library, and the New London Utilities.
Is there any question or discussion on that item? Tom?
Yeah, there still will be online, right?
Yes, yes. Now, remember, the state just passed a new law not too long ago that you can do them online, but they didn't remove the old rule, which you've got to post them in 3 places. So they will be also in 3 places and online also, just to make sure that we don't violate open meeting ordinance is the purpose of the whole thing.
And we want people to know what's going on,
Right, right,
not just the law.
right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Please cast your ballots. Dave?
Okay, and I move that we approve the license.
No.
Oh, vote then.
All voting aye, motion carried. Okay,
Now I move we approve the license list for August as presented.
Second.
been moved and seconded to approve the license list as presented. Are there any questions or discussion on that item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Park and Rec did not have a meeting during July, or early in August, I mean, so we'll move right on to Planning Commission. Mr. Steinhorst.
Planning Commission met on July 26th at 5 p.m. The agenda was adopted. Those in attendance were Mr. Hanky, Gabert, Steingraber, Steinhorst, Spillman, and Knoll. Minutes of the June 28th meeting were approved. First item then on the agenda was a public hearing for the variance for Plock Incorporated. This included a reduction in the street setback requirement for Genie Street. The public hearing was open at 5:03. Dan Plock, representing Plock Incorporated, addressed the Planning Commission and explained the proposed addition to the west would encroach about 20 feet to the required street setback. Hanlon reminded members a similar request was granted in 2016 for an addition to the Quick Lube portion of the garage. However, that addition was not constructed. And the public hearing closed at 5:06, and it was moved and seconded then to approve the variance, reducing the setback to 5 feet. That motion carried 6-0. Next, we were looking at the certified survey map for the Tractor Supply. Certified survey map combining parcel 330113-6, Evans Building, and part of 330170-100, which is Val's Restaurant, into one parcel. This additional space is going to be utilized as outside storage for Tractor Supply store. Motion was made and seconded to approve the certified survey map, and that motion also carried 5-0. 6-0. We then went on to look at the site plan for the Tractor Supply Store, which was reviewed by the Planning Commission. Mr. Hanlon explained that the outside storage areas and talked about the addition and remodeling of the interior of the building. Motion was made and seconded to approve that site plan, and that also carried 6-0. The discussion of home occupancy, our ordinance was moved to the August meeting. And following that, we had a review of the current zoning map for future amendments. A discussion of the zoning map from Highway 54, which is Fairview Drive, to the north city limits was discussed. Specific areas discussed were Spur Road, the Honchke Business Park, Partridge Drive, Oak Ridge Heights, and Fairview Drive. All of these areas have some areas that need to have different zoning designations assigned. So Mr. Hanke and Mr. Hanlon will be putting together a revised map for the August meeting. In a side discussion, it was suggested through the city administrator that he contact Darwin Honchke and talk about a land swap that would put two of Honchke's parcels together and move the city's land between the two parcels to the south end of the property. Our next meeting will be on August 23rd, and that is the end of our minutes. Now, I would move that we waive the rules to adopt in one reading a zoning amendment for parcel 3312-1210 from NR Natural Resources to NR/B2.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to waive the rules to adopt the rezoning ordinance of the property for Dollar General in one reading. Is there any discussion on that? Tom? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I would then move to adopt the ordinance to amend the zoning for parcel 3312-1210.
Moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance to amend the zoning for parcel 3312-1210. Is there any discussion on the ordinance itself? Please cast your ballots. All voting yes, motion carried.
And that is all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Steinhorst. Next, we have Economic Development Committee, Mr. Morak.
Thank you, Your Honor. Economic Development Committee met on Tuesday, July 31st at 4:30 PM in the City Council chambers. The Highway 45 billboard was discussed. The city intends to renew the billboard with the north face being done by the city and the south face being done by the Tourism Commission. John Fachet distributed two alternatives for the city side of the billboard that showed a nighttime river view photo of downtown. Motion was made by O'Connell and second by Asman to utilize the proposed river view photo that incorporates the city's zip code. Motion passed unanimously. April reported the Tourism Commission will be meeting later this month to work on ideas for the south face advertisement. Kent led a general discussion on the charges being mandated by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development to the state of Wisconsin regarding this closure of the revolving loan fund program. The state intends to have the revolving loan fund program closeout procedures in place by this October. The city will have to make some critical decisions regarding how we would like to proceed. At this time, it looks like we'll have some funding left that will remain under the city's jurisdiction. Kent will keep the committee informed as the closeout process is formalized. Randy Statmiller distributed a status report summary and redevelopment site plan drawing and discussed the pre-development work that has occurred, the project vision, the project challenges, the strategy, and the next steps. Randy noted that there is a soft residential market with a low absorption rate for the type of development being proposed for the site. The principal project challenge is the debt limitations for the city and the resulting difficulty of making a financial plan for the project proposal. Randy would like to meet with the city's finance advisor along with the city staff to further review financing options. Kitty and Kent and Judy will make the arrangements as soon as possible. Determination needs to be made regarding use of a redevelopment authority bond. Will there be sufficient density to generate enough money to float a $3 million debt? In general, there will need to be $12 million in new tax base to meet this goal. Randy is talking about 32 townhouses and 2 12-unit apartments, along with 40 senior affordable apartments above the library. The general estimate being utilized is that mixed-use library would cost $5 to $6 million, of which about $2 million would be taxable. With all the units constructed, you arrive at about $11.7 million of value of new increment. If everything sells in 8 years with some bridge financing, we could generate sufficient revenue for the $3 million bond at 4% interest in a term of 27 years for a total debt of $4.28 million. We need to reaffirm the feasibility of the bond, then go to the next step. The library is also subject to securing a competitive tax credit application for the housing segment. The library would have to be relied upon to generate sufficient funding in excess of the $3 million bond to meet the construction budget. A final determination of the costs to establish the museum needs to be finalized. A decision on whether or not to have a referendum needs to be made, and if one is held, a determination of what is being asked for has to be made. Clearly, finding a financial path forward is difficult, but does not appear impossible. We need to be creative and conservative at the same time. Timing issues are numerous, and a referendum question may be required. The consultants that Randy is working with may have a tax credit application ready for submission this November for the housing portion of the mixed-use library. This discussion will continue at the meeting next month. The committee reviewed Kent's monthly memo. The next committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 28th at 4:30 p.m. It is anticipated that Brian Yerke, New London High School principal, will be at the meeting to talk about the apprenticeship program. There was no public comment, and the meeting adjourned at 5:50 p.m. That's all I have for economic development, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Morak. Okay, you've got the minutes and reports from the Housing Authority, Library Museum, Police and Fire Commission, Utility Commission, Cemetery Superintendent, and Building Inspector. Are there any comments or questions on any of those? If not, we'll move along to reports of officers. First of all, I have made the appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals of Joyce Hoffman, Bob Woodsock, and Robin Johnson, and also to the Housing Authority Board, Paul Franzmeyer. So, next, City Administrator, Mr. Hager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple items I'd like to highlight. Obviously, summer's not over yet, and a lot's been accomplished so far, but there's several more things going on. As we discussed here this evening, the zoning's been changed to accommodate actually, there was no zoning change. It was a certified survey map done
Yeah.
by Tractor Supply, and I'm sure we'll welcome them to the community here in the near future, as well as Dollar General relocating. We have the Division Street project well underway. It's starting to take really, really good shape here, and once again, thank you to everybody who lives in that neighborhood for being so accommodating. The boat extensions were completed, they're done, and the river walls, gosh, from what I can tell, it looks like they're approaching about halfway point now, and it's taking great shape as well. So if anybody has any questions about those, please feel free to give us a call. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we go to Utility Manager, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Your Honor. We just completed the east circuit out of our north substation. There was no east circuit previously. We finally were able to get the railroad flaggers in and were able to complete that project. What's left out there to do is the final landscaping now and 2 blacktop driveways. Division Street, all our work has been done for a while. We've been doing kind of daily repairs as they bend and break valve boxes and curb boxes along the route, but that's part of the construction process. Our well number 3 is on Beacon Avenue, in that we are putting a tile floor in now. Once that's done, 2 to 3 weeks later, that well will be back in service, and that has a new iron removal system being installed in it. So hope to have that online early to mid-September. So That's what I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next, we have Director of Public Services, Mr. Hirth.
Thank you, Your Honor. Start off on the recreation side. On August 22nd, we'll be holding our annual Movie in the Park event. This year's movie is a Disney Pixar movie, Coco, which came out last November. The movie will be in Pfeiffer Park this year. Last year we tried Hatton Park. This year we're going to try Pfeiffer Park, change it up a little bit. So come down to Pfeiffer Park, August 22nd. The movie will begin at 8:30 p.m. Like we talked about, construction on Division Street continues. For the most part, like we said, all the underground utility work is complete. Working on curb and gutter right now. One of the problems we were experiencing, we had a lot of traffic going through, unnecessary traffic, so we did tighten down some of the work zones on Division Street. So you might see more barricades that are there to prevent cross traffic coming through the side streets. So if you do live on Division Street, just find the nearest opening either on Washington or over on Oak or Roland. But we did tighten down the work zone a little bit just because we had a little bit extra traffic through there. Like we said, the boat launch extension is complete. We do now have an extra 20 feet in the west and the center bays. So when the water is low, we shouldn't have a problem with that scouring out or that hole forming down at the end of those launch ramps, and then the kind of that hill forming up behind that. We basically put a big concrete block, 20-foot block right in where that hole was being formed, so we shouldn't have the problem with any of that power loading and pushing off of that material anymore. And then just as a reminder, for any of our major projects, you can get regular updates. I know we've been getting information on Facebook, what about this, what about this? And we put a lot of that information on the web. Just go to New London, wi.org/projects. I do have that kind of quick link created now, so you don't have to remember the long link, just newlondonwi.org/projects for all of our projects that we got going on. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Chief Police, Mr. Schlueter.
Thanks, Your Honor. Just want to talk about Division Street a little bit. We continue to get complaints out there of vehicles on that roadway. We're trying to get the construction done so we can get it completed as fast as possible, along with protecting the construction workers that are out there. So if you do not live on Division Street and do not have a driveway on Division Street, do not be driving on Division Street except for the cross where it's designated, which right now is Beacon Avenue, Washington, and I believe up by Roland Street. So if you do live on Division Street, please enter through one of those routes and then go down to your driveway. We can't have you getting out of your car moving barrels. As soon as you move the barrels, you open it back up for everyone. So leave the barrels where they're at, go up to those, drive down to your own spot on Division Street. Otherwise, stay off of it. If you don't, and we catch you, you're likely to get a ticket. The other thing I want to just touch base on is that schools are going to be starting up here before too long. Make sure that we start watching our speeds throughout the school zones. I know sometimes people travel a little bit faster during the summer months and when school's not in session, but especially out by the high school on Highway W, remember that the speed limit out there is 25, and also in the other school zones, and watch for kids crossing in the crosswalks. That's it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Fire Chief, Mr. Wilfer.
Thank you, Your Honor. All I have tonight is some service anniversaries. I'd like to mention Don Conant with 40 years and Dave Stibbs with 9 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.